This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. I challenged myself to see what could be done on a very primitive knitting machine. This is a vintage sister brand toy machine, and it's in great shape, but all it does is plain knitting, standard gauge, so the thinner yarn, and it has no tension dial, no ability to hold stitches. Still, I can do a lot of things with this machine, and I'm presenting this information partly because the old machine is so interesting, and partly because it'll give you ideas about more ways that you can use your machine. Now, this is a latched rib, and I've got a more elaborate way that I do this, and I will link the video down in the description box that shows you how to do a little fancier method. But this came out quite good using this machine, even without an ability to adjust the tension. I got a really good looking bottom edge. It's a stretchy bottom edge, and it just looks professional and perfect. And this is knit 1, purl 1 ribbing along the edge of my little sample. Now to start, I am going to start with waist knitting. So I'm casting on every other needle. This little machine doesn't use a comb, so I need a simple cast on. I am using a piece of ravel cord. I'm tying the ravel cord around one of the clamps. I'm going through the feeder on the carriage, through the take-up spring loop, under this little tension controller, and through that hole. That's all there is to feeding that. Then I go across slowly, give it a glance, and make sure that it knitted through every single needle. I'm unthreading it from the carriage, and I'm untying it from the clamp. I'm going to put a clothespin on it. I'll pull the two ends together here and twist them and snap a clothespin on there for just a little bit of weight. I'm going to start with some waist knitting, and for that purpose I'm only going to use every 4th needle. So I am actually unknitting these so that I have 3 back and 1 forward. I'm going to pull this string a little bit tighter. Take up the slack on that. I think I pulled one side more than the other, so I'm even fixing my clothespin. Now I'm going to take this little piece of scrap yarn that I've used several times, and I'm threading it in the carriage and going across on every other needle. So I have to bring these in between ones back out, but they're empty. It'll put green yarn in them. So over I go. I'm going to take my needle pusher, push these stitches back, and just make sure that the green knitted through all the way across. Yes, it did. That's great. So what I want to do is get several rows of waist knitting. It'll just be easier to do if I have enough waist knitting. I'm setting a bad example by knitting directly from the frizzy, previously used waist yarn. So I guess I'm busted. You saw that. Normally you would rewind that and have a cone sitting on the floor. I'm using it all up. With this little machine, I like a good sized piece of the waist knitting. And that That's all I've got. So I'm putting a clothespin on that. I am pulling the ravel cord out from the bottom so I can use it again. I am going to put a clothespin on the ravel cord, thread it, and hand feed it. Now I have threaded the yellow-orange yarn, and I go across slowly, and I stop and just take a peek, make sure that it knitted through. That looks great. After just 2 rows, I bring out the in-between needles. And let's say that I want my ribbing to be 6 rows long. So let me do 6 rows. Now I'm going to latch up the ribbing. I begin by getting all of this hardware off, including the 2 claw weights, which are hanging from a tangle. And I'm going to use a latch tool, and I am going to unravel the stitches and reform them as purl stitches. But it's going to be every other needle, starting there, and I'm not going to push them all the way out. I'm just picking them out, and then I'm going to start here and get this one and this one, and then I'll go back and get the one on the end. I like to do the one on the end later. It's easier to do later. I put my tool here, just between the green and the orange, and then I go under 3 loops, go up so that I can get the 3rd loop from the bottom into the tool, and then I pull it down behind the other 2 loops. Let me zoom in on that. Now I'm going to latch these loops up, 1 ladder at a time. I push my tool in enough so that the old stitch is behind the latch and the new stitch is in the latch. After I latch up the last one, I can hang it on the needle. Now I'm going to go back and drop this one. I didn't drop it at first because it's just easier to get the 2nd and 3rd ones first. And it gets latched up just like the others. At this point, I can push a bunch of these out, pull them back, and when I give this a little tug, they'll simply unravel, just like that. And then I can work my way across, latching these up. I will latch them up and come back on camera when I'm doing the last one. Now I'm going to latch up this last one. I just dropped the stitches, and if I drop the stitches and then leave it a while, it tends to close up, and that makes it hard to see what to latch. But if I drop them right before I do them, I can see the ladders. It just makes it easier. So there's that last one, all latched up. I push them all in against the machine, remove the ravel cord, remove the waste yarn, and I think, just for ease, I will put a couple of claw weights on. And then I want to knit some rows so we'll have a good size sample. I'm taking the knitting off the machine. Taking the claw weights off the knitting. Here's that finished ribbing. It's a knit one, purl one ribbing. It pulls in a little bit and lies very flat. There are lots and lots of situations where it's helpful to know how to use your latch tool and to be able to change some stitches into purl stitches. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. If you would like to help me put these YouTube videos out and continue to teach people about machine knitting, be sure to click subscribe. And if you click the notify bell, you'll be notified when I have a new video.